Christmas Staycation was released in 2020. This is written and directed by Jordan Imiola. I apologise if I've mispronounced that. And we have a cast including Annie Abrams, John Harrison Taylor, and various others. And this is definitely a pandemic baby because the entire thing is set over Zoom. And it's about a family coming together for Christmas over Zoom because, of course, at the time, people weren't allowed to actually meet up. And I think as a piece of history, it's pretty interesting. In terms of being an enjoyable experience, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing about it that's badly done, but it's maybe not the most engaging, and I think it would have worked better as a short. The premise is obviously quite straightforward. People coming together over Zoom at Christmas. Massive credit for the efforts made to make it look festive. I don't think everybody, but most participants in the Zoom call had festive backdrops. Somebody was dressed up as Santa Claus. They made a real effort to make it look really Christmassy, and I really, really appreciate that. And basically, it's just people talking over Zoom for duration, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes. And the reason I don't think this works very well, for me at least, as a feature film, is that nobody really wants to just watch people talking over Zoom for over an hour. It works well with horrors because they are gripping and intense and genuinely scary. But obviously this isn't a horror, it is a comedy, but I didn't find it funny. Now, comedy is subjective, and if you do find it funny, then maybe it will be more engaging. Maybe it will sustain your attention for the entire duration. But if, like me, it's not really your style of humour, then I don't think it has much else to offer in terms of captivating the attention, because it doesn't really have a lot going on, which is understandable. People are just meeting over Zoom and interacting with each other with festive backdrops, and I think they made an effort to try and make it varied in regards to the characters we're meeting and the things they're talking about. It's not just the same conversation for an hour. There is a nice variety there. But for me, at least, because I didn't find it funny, it wasn't very engaging. But I don't necessarily, as I said, think it's the film's fault, because I feel like, for me at least, Zoom-based or webcam-based films only really work for horror films because they are gripping. When they're done right, they're gripping and intense and scary and delightful and a lot of fun. But with this, we're just watching people talk for over an hour, and it's not that engaging. But, as I said, there's nothing really about it that's done badly. Visually, it looks great. It's believable. I believed that these were people meeting over Zoom. The conversations felt realistic. We had a nice range of characters, of personalities. The performances were very good. I like to make most of the backdrops really festive, a lot of gorgeous decorations, and I think that worked really, really well. And of course, it is a piece of history. Not only is it obviously based on people not being allowed to meet, but of course it was released at a time when, I'd say, and I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I imagine for a lot of people, December 2020 was the worst time for the pandemic, aside from when people were going through the illness. But because obviously December is when people come together. For many families, it's the only time of year when they get to see each other if they live far away. And then that was not allowed. And that's going to be difficult. And I think it represents something that a lot of people were going through and dealing with. And for a lot of people, it was a very, very challenging time. And it helps to represent that and help further cement that time period in history. So not only is it about that time period, but it was released during that time. So I think it's, in that regard, quite important. I think it is actually quite significant. And I don't watch that many films set during and about the pandemic because I don't want to go back there. I don't want to think about it. But I love Christmas films, so I couldn't help myself. And I do think that films created during that time, with this general concept of people not being allowed to meet and having to meet over Zoom, it's something the majority of the world was going through. And I think it's such an important thing to preserve in history as much as possible. Not that we were going through it to preserve that, but the memories, things that were created during the time, fueled by the problems people were facing, the emotions people were facing, and to turn it into something creative like this, to channel that situation into something creative, I can't fault it. So Christmas Staycation may not be the most engaging, entertaining film. but it does have a lot to offer in terms of being a significant piece of history, in terms of being quite festive. The performances and characters are all good, and visually it's perfectly fine. So I think it's got a lot of value. It's not the most engaging, but that being said, I have a lot of appreciation for it. And if it sounds like a film for you, or if you just want to check it out and see what it's like, then I'd say Christmas Staycation is one that's worth looking into.